Your parents are immigrants who work very hard, night and day, sell their car, sell their home, just to have enough money to give you a glimpse of a chance at a better life in a different country so that you can go through school and decide that you want to open up your own business, your own family owned business to give back to the same family who has given everything up so that you had a better chance at a life that they could only possibly dream. Just to one day have somebody come in, decide to go online, spew nonsense, negativity, and hate towards everything your family has worked to build from the ground up. In a matter of days, completely run your business to the ground single handedly. That is the reality of today dealing with influencers and streamers. Today we'll be getting into the negative impacts of streamers and influencers. I do just want to give a disclaimer. The opinions expressed in this episode are solely those of Dreams World and do not reflect the views of any employers, organizations, or affiliates. This content is intended for conversation and entertainment purposes only and is not meant to offend or harm any individual, group, or organization. The negative impacts of influencers and streamers. There are pros and cons. Today we'll only be talking about the cons. There's a lot of things that are very distasteful. A lot of them don't really care about what's going on in the world. If you are going out your way to build a community, from what I've observed, is there is a very big lack of elevation. A lot of the big streamers that you can think of, you see them get to a certain point. They're choosing to continue to do what's making them money, not actually progressing. I can really understand wanting to continue to maintain your income, but there is a real big lack of humanity in caring about other human beings. People could sit there and subscribe to you and spend money out of their own pocket, and you can't take the decency to speak on topics that are probably harming the community that you've built. What is the purpose of you having the influence that you do if you cannot speak up and open up your mouth about things that are actually important? It's very scary to open your mouth and speak on things that people have been harmed for. But when you look back at history, that didn't stop people from fighting for what was right. What's the point of you having an influence and a platform that was given to you by people if you're not going to speak up for the people who are actually being harmed? The thing with this is a lot of them will speak up, but they'll speak up about things that don't really matter. They'll talk about slight inconveniences like coffee name changes, things being taken off of menus, slight inconveniences in their day, but do not want to open up their mouth about anything that actually matters. And the reason why I'm talking about influencers and streamers specifically is because celebrities are today are not what celebrities used to be. A lot of male streamers like to do the same thing. They go and they spend a lot of money on corners in clubs. I can't even think of the name of what it's called right now. Corners in clubs invite women. Most people want to watch streams because of women. They invite them and they either belittle them or they do nothing. They actually don't do anything. They sit, they spend this money, they stand in one place, they invite women to dance around them, and they either belittle the women that they've invited there, they talk down on them, they sexualize them. They do that on a loop, and it's a basic part of streaming. You have a lot of people who do these things called gifting battles. Gifting battles are where you send your money and you send them these virtual gifts. That is translated into these other things that they are able to cash out at some point. And people are spending lots of money and they're not even probably getting 10% of what you're sending to them. The problem isn't that they're coming on here and they're doing battles. The problem is they're being very disgusting. There's a method to doing these battles where you come on there, you antagonize people so that they gift you. That's what they do. That's why they're always screaming. That's why they're always yelling. That's why they're always testing you, calling you out. When you come in there, everybody doesn't do that, but there's a big percentage of them that sit there and they do that all day. Get your money how you want to get your money, but it's all very nasty. Some of these apps where people stream on are very toxic. A lot of influencers' communities are very nasty. A lot of them don't speak out or say anything. They may say something when somebody very, very important and maybe very wealthy comes onto their screen. Other than that, it takes a lot for them to actually come out their face and say things because they don't want that to mess with their money. I understand not wanting to mess with your money, but it gets to a certain point. It's very damaging to kids in their development. You have a lot of young children who sit there and they watch these streamers and they watch these influencers and they watch the luxuries that they claim to have that they really don't have because a lot of them are renting. They're renting to do things, they're renting out places, pretending to have these cars that are not theirs. Things that they get are not stuff that they have bought. They're discounted or they're free. Kids, they don't see that. They don't understand that. Obviously, I'm pretty sure a good percent of them that understand this, but a lot of them do not. They're very easily impressionable. I've witnessed firsthand being in a Discord, they're sitting there and they're just bullying each other so bad that they're leaving the Discord. They're looking each other's informations up. They're going and they're exposing each other's information. And the influencer is intentionally fueling the fire. If they fuel that fire, then that's going to get them more money. They'll have something to talk about because a lot of these streamers, they don't really have any content. They sit there and they run their mouth all day, every day. I don't have a problem with you sitting there running your mouth and doing whatever you want. Freedom of speech, right? But there's a difference when you're just being nasty all day, every single day, talking down on people, talking down on children, belittling them, making them feel small to give you a paycheck. When it comes to social media, there's a lot of things that will be on social media that should not. You'll post and that will get flagged and that will get taken down, and it's not even against any community guideline. You'll see somebody actually getting bullied and belittled, it'll stay up there. And the same for some of these streaming platforms. If somebody's making them a lot of money, it's going to take a lot for them to get taken off of that app. I'll let you know that right now. There is somebody that I have reported multiple times for harassment and bullying. This specific person goes out their way to get accounts taken down. Mind you, these people also make their money off of social media and they'll tell their community to, they might not directly say it, but they'll tell their community to go and mass report other people's accounts. That individual that they're reporting, that's how they're making their money. So you have no regard for what it is that you're doing. Now you're going to mess up that person's life and you have no care in the world and there is no repercussion for how you're acting. There's been numerous of times where I've seen individuals pull out a weapon. They're not banned. All of these kids, because there's a good percentage that are kids, but they're not all kids, are watching them and they're thinking that this very violent behavior is okay. It's not okay. It's not okay at all. I'm not saying it's all of them, but I'm specifically talking about male influencers when I say this. A lot of them are very nasty and disgusting. They will belittle a woman very quickly because they want clicks and views. The fact that some of them have to sit there and come out their face to keep them getting a paycheck is really disgusting. It isn't something that should be praised. It isn't something that should be tolerated. Yet here they are still making thousands and thousands of dollars while putting women down. They're showing other children that this is okay. There's been documentaries. I think there's a documentary on Hulu that specifically talks about male influencers and their behavior, how it's really affecting children. A lot of the people that I see talk about it are adults complaining, but they're complaining for the wrong reasons. When I see people complaining, it's more so people complaining because they're not in the position as that streamer. There's people who are losing their businesses because influencers want to walk in and they want to cause a scene, get something for free, but they're not going to because they have to actually pay. Because just because you're an influencer doesn't mean that you can get things for free. When you come in and you go to your following, you basically tell them that this business is not good. It's becoming very exhausting for people to deal with to the point where they don't even want anybody streaming. People get upset when other people are mad because you're recording yourself, but a lot of people will go on social media and not even blur out anybody's face. I don't know why people have such a lack of privacy and feel very entitled to other people's space, but that is very unrealistic in my opinion. I'm pretty sure we've all seen this, the influencers knowingly putting up things where they're scamming, letting people promote their scams that can put them into prison. You can get locked up for a lot of the things that they're actively promoting on their page, and they do not care who it affects. They do not care as long as they're getting paid. So if you're a parent watching this, I definitely encourage you to actually check to see who your child is involving themselves with, because also a lot of these influencers are predators. There's an app where you can stream, and they have this thing where you're basically part of, I'm just going to say, a small community that you build. And then you have ranks of different communities. In this specific one, they had this dude. I thought he was like 22 at the time, but then I found out he's been lying about his age. He was saying inappropriate things to a kid. So I had to expose him. I had to get him kicked out of that. I tried to get him banned, but they wouldn't ban him. And I reported him numerous of times and they did nothing. I eventually stopped going on the app because it was a very toxic app, but she was very young. She was very young. She shouldn't have been on the app. And I found out that there was a lot of people who were older than me who knew about this. And they said absolutely nothing. They don't care. These were other influencers, these were other streamers. They said absolutely nothing. And they knew this little girl was online actively flirting with grown men. And they said absolutely nothing. They were women. They were all women who knew. They weren't surprised because they knew. They were more surprised that somebody actually said something about it. They were also in the same community because everybody, you can build your own community of people and you have rankings. And that person who I got removed, mind you, I had my own community. I got them removed. They were in the same community as them. The person who was like the community leader was very shocked and disgusted because they had a daughter that was her age. In America, and I'm going to say America specifically, we have so much going on. A lot of people have so much going on and they have children and they can't take the time to sit there, pay attention to what it is that their children is doing. But I'm telling you right now, you need to. When it comes to the whole streaming and influencer thing, it's flawed and choosy to what can be seen and what's being restricted. I'll tell you that right now. These influencers, they don't care about you. Not all influencers are bad, but a lot of them don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They will watch you crawl on your knees while you're taking your last breath and do nothing. A lot of the big name people, they're weird. Going all the way back to what I kind of originally was talking about, when I say elevation, let me paint the picture of how some of these influencers, how they progress. They start off somewhere, right? Maybe they're a lot of them are switching to streaming first, right? Because it helps you push your content out. So they're starting off streaming, right? They're building their social media platforms, which is smart. A lot of them aren't doing anything on their streams. You can literally come up with anything interesting, but they're not doing that. They're running their mouth. They're talking about getting in physical fights. A good portion of big people's development is not fully there, and they're not encouraging that at all in any sort of way. There's influencers who are literally encouraging not reading books, especially if they're thick. Now, if that's not painting a picture to what a part of the problem is with this whole situation, and I'm not talking about small streamers, I'm talking about big streamers saying to their young audience that they do not want to read a book because it is thick. They rather do something that's dumb and meaningless, and I mean that in the exact sense. Dumb and meaningless. And they're supposed to just sit here and you're supposed to gift them. And then once you gift them and they get to their goals, they use that to again expand their social media platforms. And then they use the money that they're getting off streaming, and they, smart ones, they invest in stuff and then they put things out like clothing or makeup that is very low quality. I'm not trying to kick anybody while they're down, but this is what I mean when I say this. There's nothing wrong with starting somewhere and progressing. There's people who are coming out with these things and they're not progressing. They're selling the same crappy things for $40. And they want you to support them, and you're doing absolutely nothing to support and give back to the community. Yeah, you're going to church on Sunday. Congratulations. What is that doing for homeless people? What is that doing for people who can't pay their bills? It's already been proven that these churches don't even care about people. One might argue that, oh, it's their money, they can do what they want. You're absolutely right. You can do whatever you want with your money. The problem is the lack of care for other human beings. So many people who get to a certain point and there's no elevation. And then you're coming back and you're coming back on stream and you're coming back on social media and you're doing your little bops and your little dances. And while somebody's dancing in a grave, you could care less. You've already put on a show to persuade people of this personality that you claim to be, and you don't care. Just like these celebrities, just like these rappers, they get so much support, and some of them barely do anything in return. You're heartless. You don't have to do stuff in the public eye. Jaden Smith, didn't he open a restaurant? There was no media coverage, nothing. You heard about it when other people started speaking about it. That's the things that you do when you have it. That's what it's about. That's what life is about. Everybody's quick to open their mouth and talk about things that don't matter, but when it's actually important, nobody wants to say anything. There's a lot of cons. There's a lot of pros to influencers and streaming, but there's also a lot of cons that people don't want to actually bring light to. Anyways, that's all I have to say today. Thank you again for tuning into Dreams World. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button or follow, please go ahead and do that for me. Comment your thoughts below. See you on the next one.